Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. My lovely co-host Tracy L. Connors is here as always. Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Fingers.
So we've been really inconsistent when it comes to releasing this podcast lately for a number of reasons. I've been building a new studio, which is almost done. So if you notice behind me that I'm not in a corner, and I actually have stuff that isn't a corner behind me, and I'm waving my arms wildly. For those of you who aren't watching this cast on YouTube or BitChute and are listening to the podcast, wherever good podcasts are sold, you wouldn't know that I'm waving my arms around like a mad person. So I've been building the studio. It's 95% completed. So that has taken some time away. And then also Tracy L. Connors has been touring the world. She's been an international traveler. Tracy.
It's true. I crossed the northern border.
You did. But really, the important part of the trip was you were in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Did you see Siegfried and Roy?
No. Didn't see any shows. No. I did get to ride the giant Ferris wheel they have there now, the high roller.
Where is that? Is that at the link?
Yes, that is. And we took the open bar car, if you can imagine.
Stop it.
No joke.
There's an open bar car in a Ferris wheel.
Yes. So it's a giant Ferris wheel, and it's all enclosed. So you're in these little spheres. And in some of those, there's a bar with a friendly bartender that accompanies you on your little ride around. They say it takes 35 minutes. I think they're lying. It felt way faster.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense because I have been on many a Ferris wheel over the years, and I realize that Las Vegas, if you're going to have a Ferris wheel in Las Vegas on the Strip, it has to be 100 times bigger and better than any Ferris wheel anywhere else around the country. But the idea that there's a bartender in a bar, you can't go one lap around a Ferris wheel without a drink.
Nope.
I'm concerned about you.
Oh, come on.
But if
the bar car,
right? But if it takes 35 minutes, my God, that's 2 drinks.
I got 3.
Good for you.
Well, you can leave with it, at the end.
Right.
So,
God, everywhere should be open container.
I know. We'll get there someday.
Someday. Not, I'm doing the show here from Indianapolis, and we just got Sunday sales when it comes to liquor just like a couple of years ago. So I don't have much hope for. Although open containers, they actually have a pretty liberal laws when it comes to that. At one point, up until a few years ago, it was legal for you to drive with an open container in your car as long as the driver wasn't drinking.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, but you couldn't buy it on Sunday.
Think about it, like limousines. This is the argument I've had with people about, if the driver's not drinking, can you have open containers? It's like, well, what about limousines and party buses? This wouldn't exist if it was illegal, right? Or they just are ignored. I don't really understand, but that would be my defense.
Yeah, I don't understand why it should be a big deal for if I'm taking people to a concert or downtown Indianapolis from where I live. If everyone's drinking, if I'm a designated driver, I'm not drinking.
Sure. Even if you're just picking up your friends from work and they need to crack one open as soon as they walk out the door. Doesn't matter where you're going.
Right. So there's a lot that's been going on since we have been gone. One of the big stories here in the Midwest, and it's not nearly as big as it would have been 30 years ago, because of how the manufacturing footprint of General Motors has shrunk considerably in the last 3-4 decades. But the UAW went on strike against General Motors in mid-September. And here we are, October 5th when we're recording this podcast. And they're still on strike.
Wow.
And I know, Tracy, you find the unionized labor issue interesting, and you haven't been following what's been going on, though, have you?
No, it was a little bit difficult because I was in Vegas not just for fun but for work, and from there I ran up to Calgary for a couple days to visit a friend of mine. So I haven't seen the news in about a week, and then I'm playing catch up and trying to kick this cold that I returned home with in the ass, because I'm sure that's a little alien that came with me. I can't say for the record fingers, there are a lot of Canadian geese in Canada. I thought.
Oh, there are.
Immigrated, yes. I was shocked.
Did you try any of them broiled?
No.
Or deep fried?
I don't eat birds, so no.
Oh, that's true. What's the saying? Foul is foul?
Yes, foul is foul.
So this General Motors United Auto Workers strike is really a fascinating tale, Tracy, because there's many layers to this. You have a corporation in General Motors who has consistently lied to its employees, like any good corporation would.
Sure.
Right?
What is it about?
You broke up on me.
Oh, what are they lying about in general? Do you have?
Well, they weren't supposed to. In the last contract, they agreed to not close any plants. And then they announced right before negotiations started with the United Auto Workers that they were closing 5 plants. And so, which, in all honesty, is something that probably has to happen because General Motors has too many factories. But maybe that should have waited a year and been a part of negotiations for the new contract. And there are many other things that, from the CEO of General Motors on down to a plant foreman, lies happen all the time for varying reasons. Then you have the United Auto Workers international union at the international level at Solidarity House. That's where they call their little headquarters in Detroit. Oh. Solidarity House. There's a big scandal there. So many of the union representatives on the international level were on the take.
No.
Right? It's a shocker. The Chrysler bargaining unit in 2015, many of them were bribed by Chrysler during the negotiation process, so they got the contract through. And the Chrysler contract was the pattern for the other two. They call it pattern bargaining or whatever, where they pick one of the big 3, the United Auto Workers, and they come to a contract agreement with that auto company and then use that as a pattern for their other the other members of the big 3. So you've got a situation where General Motors this time around was picked as the target and create the pattern, and then they were going to take that agreement to the other auto companies. So in 2015, nobody was expecting Chrysler to be the target, but it's amazing what some bribes will do to change someone's attitude as to who should be the pattern. Because once
GM would be the target, and they bribed the Chrysler.
Yeah,
right.
In 2015, they bribed the Chrysler, the UAW Chrysler bargaining unit. Chrysler bribed them
to put the focus on GM instead.
No.
Oh,
maybe I'm being confusing. I'm jumping around. In 2015. Chrysler was chosen to be the target, like GM was now in 2019. And Chrysler negotiated with the Chrysler UAW representatives to come to an agreement. Well, the whole time that was going on, Chrysler was bribing the United Auto Workers involved in negotiating the Chrysler deal.
And what form are these bribes taking? Is it just cash?
It's cash. They have a joint Chrysler United Auto Workers training facility. And through the training center budget, they were able to pass along some money. And there would be reimbursements and stuff that for things that didn't happen. Now, this time around, so there's, I guess, between 8 and 10 United Auto Workers involved in the Chrysler negotiation in 2015 who were arrested and are either going through being prosecuted at this time, or already their cases have already been tried and people are in jail. Well, now they've moved to the GM wing.
Okay. Oh, wait, I have a question about this.
Okay.
So this all goes on. We've got the negotiators that are negotiating on behalf of the UAW that are getting bribes from Chrysler so that the contract that's reached is more amenable to Chrysler, I assume.
It was, yes, it probably was a deal that was more corporation friendly than would be if the union wasn't being bribed. And then what happens after a contract is negotiated, the international union, along with local union representatives, have to sell the rank and file member that this is a good contract and it needs to be ratified.
Okay. And then those guys turn around, did that. The contract gets ratified, and then they get busted for taking the bribes?
Yes, they got busted for taking the bribes.
Okay. And so then how does the union recover from that? What do they say to the members?
What you would expect from any corrupt organization. Listen, we're sorry. Our bad. We won't do it again. And we'll be much more transparent from now on.
Okay.
Yeah, like all the stuff that you just know they're thinking, this is just all going to blow over. It'll go away. People will go back to their lives. So this time around, now, they've expanded this investigation to include all of the United Auto Workers at Solidarity House, the representatives there. And now for the first time,
a place where people live. It sounds like some high-rise, fancy pants, like 4-star hotel.
No, I'm sure they have that though.
Okay.
No, it's just they don't want to call it a headquarters, I guess, because that sounds too corporate. So, Solidarity House. It's a house, Tracy, built on the solidarity of union members, the United Auto Workers. So, the funny thing is that the investigation has broadened because there was one woman in the Chrysler unit that started to blow the whistle because, she's like, if I'm going down, I'm taking everyone with me.
Good for her.
So, yeah. And, so this, and here's the thing that's terrifying about this. If you're a United Auto Worker, is this person who has been blowing the whistle was an administrative assistant who was taking cash. So it's like, okay, the corruption, it's not just at the top. It got all the way down to administrative assistants at Solidarity House. So this woman's like, hey, I'm taking everyone down with me. And she made a deal with the feds to where they, of course, helping a sister out.
Sure. She gets no jail time, minimal,
right.
That kind of stuff.
Right. I'll have to check to see what her racial makeup is, because if she is black, I wasn't being racial when I'm just saying help a sister out, help a brother out. That's all I'm saying. Didn't know the race, so if she's black, I don't want to be pinned at being a racist. So anyway, but it probably will be. So get this. So now they started to find people involved in the General Motors negotiations and, dealing with General Motors on the UAW side who have been on the take. But this hasn't been corporate bribery. This has been, they have been taking union members' dues and stuffing it in their pockets in creative ways. I'll give you an example. This one guy said he wanted to buy watches for the membership. I forgive me, I don't have the details of the story in front of me, but bought like 60,000 watches or something that he was going to hand out, and he got a contract for those watches from an outside source, and wouldn't you know, he pocketed some money from that contract. And the watches were never handed out. They're still at a Solidarity House room. Never got handed out.
They're actually there?
I'm told they're there.
And photographic evidence.
And they'll probably be handed out.
Watches.
They'll probably be handed out in 2040 when there's no need for watches and you just have a chip implanted in your temple that will, all you have to do is close your eyes and you know what time it is. But so there's that. They've been having these extravagant conferences in places like Palm Springs, where it's only supposed to last 3 days, but yet they're being reimbursed for a conference that lasts much longer than that, and reimbursed for cigars and golf equipment and all this stuff in the money in the pocket. Well, this goes all the way up to the former president of the United Auto Workers and the current president of the United Auto Workers. So this stuff with General Motors is going down as these accusations of corruption in the United Auto Workers is being thrown out there. They've had FBI has raided the union president's home and the former union president's home, and there are allegations that there was large piles of cash in the president's garage that the FBI was going 24 to 60, 800, 24, 68, 200, just counting right there. So the whole thing is ugly. So if you're some poor rank and file schmuck, and I say schmuck lovingly, you're just trying to pay the bills, and you go to your factory job, and you look and you see, well, I don't trust General Motors, and now I can't trust my union. You don't know where to go. So they've been on strike now for 3 weeks, and a lot of it has to do with General Motors. They hire temporary workers, which was part of the post-bankruptcy agreement, and these temporary workers make half of what a normal, fully vested employee at General Motors makes, and they don't get the benefits. And they're called temporaries, but they dangle the carrot, General Motors does, of hiring these people in permanently, and they never do. You have people in these small towns that the only thing that the town really has going on is this General Motors factory. They're offered a temporary job thinking this could lead to permanent employment at General Motors, and they're temporaries for 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Wow. And they're not getting any benefits at all?
No.
Isn't that illegal?
They have the wording in a way where in the agreement to where they may get some sort of, but they don't get the medical benefits, or they don't get profit sharing. They don't get all the other the bells and whistles that permanent employees get. I don't think they get health care benefits. Well, I'm almost positive
through a temp agency would be my guess. If it's coming through something like that, then through the agency they can get those things, I believe, is how it works.
That may very well be true, but the point is that you're calling these people temporary, and they're working there for 7, 8, 9, 10 years in some cases.
I think we're in the time where we redefine words constantly. So,
right. So, listen, the whole thing is a mess, and I could see this going on for at least another week, maybe 2, and that would be. There are concerns, especially in the state of Michigan and especially in southeastern Michigan, that this could lead to a mini recession in Michigan.
Sure.
A one-state recession.
Now.
Yeah, you've got 17,000, I believe, United Auto Workers who work for General Motors in Michigan. And, of course, then you have all the suppliers
right,
who produce anything from seats to brakes, that kind of stuff. So it just creates this ripple down effect where the UAW strikes General Motors, but then it affects the suppliers, and then you've got thousands more out of work. So there's concern that this could lead to a one-state recession.
And what are the points that they cannot come to agreement on?
The temporaries is the main one.
Okay. GM wants to keep the temporaries, and the
right.
says no.
Right. Well, they want a path for these temporaries to become full-time employees, and right now there is no path. And the last I saw was there was a letter that came out a few days ago stating that General Motors is stating that they want these temporaries to work for 3 years as temps before there's 3 uninterrupted years before they can reach this path that they come up with to being a full-time employee at GM. And
are you allowed to be a full-time employee and not be a member of the UAW, or is that state by state?
No, and these temporaries are United Auto Workers. They're out on strike right now, too.
Oh.
So that's another thing that especially fires up these temporaries is, hey, we've been paying union dues now for years, and we would like some representation.
It seems like the whole thing is just a giant grift.
I can see
benefit. That was always my kind of hesitation of joining any union whatsoever. It's just, I'm just adding another level of government on top of me that gets to steal money from me and pretend that they're fighting on my behalf while they're out in Palm Springs playing golf for 4 days and expensing it. Yeah, I don't think so.
Right. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because they're saying now that if they come to a tentative agreement. See, the way this works is if the bargaining unit at the United Auto Workers comes up with a tentative agreement with General Motors, then they have to have each local vote. The membership has to vote on whether or not they agree with this agreement. And because of the suspicion within the rank and file of the International Union being on the take, they may turn down the first offer. I know of General Motors plants where Chrysler employees are showing up and picketing with the GM employees because they're so upset of what happened in 2015. So it's very, very interesting that they could come up with a tentative agreement. And here's the other funny thing, too. And maybe it'll be different this time around, but they're saying it could take a whole week to ratify this agreement. Because in the past, what they do, Tracy, is once they get a tentative agreement, they'll fly in all of the local presidents and bargaining chairpersons from around the country into Detroit so they could have a meeting to tell people about the agreement for them to go back to the locals and sell it to the membership. As if in 2019, you can't have a conference call.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And so nobody's getting paid during this whole thing, right?
The first week, if they get no compensation from the corporation at all, obviously, because you're out on strike.
Right.
After 8 days, these people qualify for strike pay, $50 a day, 5 days a week. They have to make sure they show up for their picket line assignments. They go out on the picket line.
Less than jury duty rates, I feel like.
Yeah. So they get $250 a week. So, that's the thing, too, where you can be really picky about a tentative agreement when you've only been out a week.
Yeah.
When you start missing paychecks for a month, 2 months, what's funny is there was a strike back in '98 against General Motors on the local level. There were 2 Delphi plants. It was their old parts subsidiary that would make all the components for the most part that would go into a General Motors vehicle. There were 2 crucial Delphi plants and a metal stamping plant up in Flint that went out in '98. They were out for 2 months and pretty much shut down the entire corporation because they made parts that would go into almost all General Motors vehicles. And so they had an agreement, and these were locals going out on strike, but they were locals going out on strike trying to make a point to the corporation. So they were out for 60 days, and they came to tentative agreements. And when they had their meeting to tell the membership what the tentative agreement had in it, there were people very angry saying, you kept us out for 60 days for this. But they swallowed hard. They voted yes, because going 2 months without a paycheck and you don't get unemployment, you walked out.
Oh, and you don't get back pay, I assume,
No. So it'll be interesting. I think this may last another week and a half. They get a tentative agreement, and then because they're going to act like it's not 2019, and they're going to have to fly everybody up to Detroit, have their meeting, and then they've got to find they hand out highlights of the tentative agreement that they hand out to the membership. They got to find a union shop that will print these out. Can't find a local. See, this whole thing could be done in a day.
Right.
You
email it. You have a conference call.
Right, and then in the meantime, if you feel like you got to hand out a physical copy to the membership instead of having a digital copy, which would be available for everyone other than the 3 people out there who don't use the internet in 2019, you would think that they would have had plenty of time in the last 3 weeks to find a local shop that could print these out, that they could hand out. But it'll be all drawn out, and it'll take a week, and meanwhile people are missing paychecks. So it's a fascinating look back into the 20th century in 2019.
Right, and I'm just sitting here thinking, with all the dues they collect, you'd think they would build up a strike fund where they could give everybody more than the $50 a day. Well,
they have almost $1 billion in the strike fund, Tracy.
Why isn't that being distributed?
That's what the $250 a week is.
Well, I guess if you're saying there's 17,000 employees just in Michigan alone.
There are 46,500 employees who are unionized in the United Auto Workers employed at General Motors. $250 a week, that's $11,625,000 a week they're paying out in strike pay. Okay. Keep in mind, what's fascinating about the United Auto Workers, because their membership has continued to dwindle over the decades. I believe in the 90s, they had over 300,000 General Motors employees that were unionized. Now that's 46,000. They have reached out outside of the United or the automotive industry to represent employees. So you have United Auto Workers union members who are blackjack dealers in Atlantic City and in Vegas. You've got college professors and other college faculty who are United Auto Workers who are also paying into the strike fund. I saw a piece in the LA Times a few days ago where, of course, college professors, college faculty, they're like, oh, we're in full support of the United Auto Workers. You got to stick it to the man, and so it's incredible to watch, especially from the Midwest here, because it does affect a lot of people here, and I hope that they come to a resolution. But it's not, the funny thing is too, because they do this pattern bargaining. There are reports that Ford and Chrysler are almost completely done negotiating. And they're just waiting for the final numbers from GM to use against Ford and Chrysler.
Now, how long do these contracts generally last?
They used to be 3 years. And then the last 2 contracts, they bumped it up to 4 years because they wanted a little bit more stability in the labor market. But now you're finding, I think General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford would almost love it to be like a 3-year deal or even a 2-year deal, except for having to work with this, dealing with negotiating is the bad part. But the automotive industry is changing so rapidly. People are for whatever reason, there is this movement to go to electric cars. So you got the battery operated cars that are supposed to be better for the environment, which they aren't. And then you've got this the movement towards autonomous vehicles, where you'll be standing there on a corner in Manhattan and a car will come up with no driver to pick you up and probably plunge you into the East River. That's my guess.
Well, speaking of, when I was in Vegas, I was Ubering and taking lifts. I only went back and forth to the airport, but when I can't remember which of the two, I think it was Uber. When I was going to leave and looking for an airport ride, I always pit the two against each other, see who's cheaper, and that's where I'll go. But I got this screen that said, would you be okay taking an autonomous vehicle? And I said, yeah, sure. And it's like, just note that there will be 2 human beings in the vehicle along with it, sitting in the front. And I'm thinking, what the hell is the person in the passenger seat doing? Is it like one of those driver's ed cars where they also have brakes and a steering wheel? I thought the whole point was to get rid of the people, and now you've doubled the number of drivers that I need to ride in a driverless car.
Right. And something else that's interesting about Lyft that I just noticed when I was in Nashville, and pardon me, I'm trying to multitask because I'm opening up my Lyft app as we speak. And if you go into the settings, I believe, in Lyft, if you, no, I can't find it here, and I'm not going to continue to try. In Lyft, it will ask you what's your preferred pronoun.
Oh, shut up.
That you would like to. Where is this? Doggone it. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I can tell you a fun story from my Lyft driver. A very interesting gentleman. So I'm heading from my hotel to the airport in Las Vegas. And according to him, unlike Uber, he doesn't get told where I'm going, which was news to me.
What?
To pick me up. I don't know. I don't know whether to believe this or not. So I'm standing outside of my hotel, and since I had been in Las Vegas and I was going to Calgary, I had 2 suitcases because I need 100-degree weather suitcases and freezing suitcases.
Right.
So he picks me up and he's like, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm standing in front of a hotel and I have a whole bunch of luggage.
Right.
I think we're headed to the airport. So he starts chatting with me. Where are you going? And I tell him, oh, guess what? I just saw this huge alert come on my phone, like storm of the century or unprecedented snowstorm that you're flying into, la, la, la. And so we start chatting, as one does, with their driver, if you're a polite human being, unlike Fingers, who just puts headphones in.
That's me.
Yeah, well, they do rate you. And then you could get blackballed if you have a low rating on either Twitter or Uber or Lyft.
But don't you feel like most Lyft drivers enjoy not having to talk to their customers?
I don't know. This guy was pretty chatty. So he was a Vietnam vet that had retired, but then he was sitting around the house too much. So his wife's like, you need to go to work. So now he drives a Lyft. And we got to talking, and I don't know how we got on the subject of stupid people. Because he determined that I was not one of those, and I agreed that he was also not in that club. But he told me a story. He said,
nice.
He picked this chick up from the airport in Vegas, and if you've ever gotten to the Vegas airport, it's unlike any other major city's airport. Vegas's airport is right in the city. And I assume that's because that city didn't get built up until the 50s or 60s when air travel was already a thing. But every other major city, you kind of you're outside of it, and then you have a long drive. But no, Vegas, you're landing right next to a casino pretty much. And there's casinos in the airport. But point being, there's just billboards everywhere for all of the things. And there's a billboard that says book tours. And it's got pictures of like safaris and stuff like this on it. And so this young lady that's in his Lyft with him says, oh my God, I just love this town. That is so amazing. And he's just like, okay, I don't really follow, but go ahead. She's like, oh, I'm coming back here and I'm going on one of those book tours. That sounds awesome. I can't wait to read everything they have on that book tour.
Wow.
It's just like, oh,
She's fun at parties.
yeah. It's like, I don't think this girl's ever read a book in her life, and here she is telling me she's going on a book tour, not understanding that that's an ad for a travel agency.
Wow.
Yeah. But fun times. And then the next story involved him picking up some 20-something girl that had been at a pool party at one of the hotels and had come out without a top and gets into his car like that.
So we have to go back for a second because I'll be honest with you. I was listening. I thought you were filling time.
Yeah.
So are you telling me it just said the
billboard said book tours?
Wow. Okay. So can you imagine the confusion in the voice of the travel agent taking that phone call?
Yeah. It's like classic lit, Brit lit. What is it? Western canon. She wouldn't know phrases like that, though, I don't think.
Oh, that's funny. Well, while you were doing that, apparently Lyft has taken that off of their app.
Oh.
I showed it to people in Nashville. I said, do you believe this? They're asking what pronoun I want to be identified as. So, and it was he, she.
They, them.
They, them. But it's gone. I don't know if people complained. I don't know why people would. I was surprised I found it, to be honest with you.
Pick yours, and now it's not an option anymore.
Apparently you cannot pick.
You can't. Oh, okay.
So, but that's what I get for, I thought you were filling time for me.
I was.
And I wasn't listening closely enough. I thought you were actually talking about someone who would want to go on a book tour.
There's no such thing. Or not in Vegas, at least.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Let's see. Oh, geez, a book tour in Vegas? Boy, that sounds awful. Looking at my phone, trying to find that damn thing. I'm getting frustrated. They're like, well, wait a minute. No, what? What did you just say? Book tours.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So I think we've pretty much exhausted the United Auto Worker talk. A lot of things have happened on the national political scene that we've missed. Donald Trump's use of Nickelback.
I knew, looking through all the stories that had happened since we've been gone, that would be your go-to, because you're the biggest Nickelback fan that I know.
Oh. Who isn't a Nickelback fan? No, honestly, Nickelback isn't even a Nickelback fan. But no, you're a lady.
True.
Do you like the Nickelback? Because it seems to be that's their wheelhouse. Women. Like that. Don't they come out with a bunch of almost grunge power ballads that people listen to with vaginas? That's what I thought Nickelback was. Well, one of the songs that is a popular Nickelback tune is Photograph. And when somebody says, I heard Photograph on the radio, I think of Def Leppard. I'm thinking Nickelback. But so Nickelback had the Photograph song, and you got the piece in front of you. Explain it to the folks. Bill O'Reilly calls them the folks.
Yes. So this is from the HuffPo. Mm-hmm. Trump just politicized Nickelback, and people think we've entered another universe. So I love the way that they've decided to use the word doctored when they're talking about videos that are edited.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre, but they have to make it seem nefarious. Oh, it's doctored. Nobody would know if we didn't tell them that this wasn't the original Nickelback video. So
you mean Nickelback didn't have a photograph of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden golfing with a Ukrainian gas line executive?
No, apparently not. And it may surprise you to learn this is the first time I've ever heard this song. because I've effectively
Really?
Nickelback. Yeah, I don't listen to pop radio at all. So,
Oh, well, you're a better
the
person for
second
it.
I hear it, it's off. So, anyway, if they say this is Josephine Harvey, there's bad news for those who were hoping the events involving President Donald Trump on Wednesday. So this is from earlier this week. Were part of a wrinkle in time. I don't know who was on that team. Were you familiar with anybody who thought that this was all a wrinkle in time?
I have just been sitting back, eating popcorn with my feet up on a desk, enjoying every minute of it.
Exactly. But they were very much real fingers. Following a dramatic day of foul-mouthed tweeting, raging at reporters, and awkward moments with visiting Finnish president, I'm not going to say his name because it's not worth me trying to do that, Trump found time to drop a doctored video of Nickelback's Look at This Photograph music video, which had been edited to include an image of Joe Biden and his son, along with 2 other men. And I love it. Trump he found the time to drop a doctored version. He didn't do anything. He retweeted somebody else's meme. It's not like Trump sat there and went into Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, spent time editing this together. Somebody else made it, and he clicked, oh, retweet. How long does that take? Maybe a full second. But
they always swing wildly back and forth between he's a complete moron to oh, listen, he knows everything about Final Cut Pro. I mean, he's been in the media for years. He probably slapped that doctored video together in 30 seconds. I mean, the man is just so smart. 10 seconds later, he's a complete moron again.
Yes.
They did the same thing with Bush.
Yeah.
Bush is a bumbling idiot who was able to outsmart all the Democratic Party practically to trick them into the Iraq War.
Evil Bush, though. Come on.
Yeah, evil genius, and then 30 seconds later, oh, he's a bumbling idiot again. It's amazing.
Well, and they always like to poke Trump, always wasting all this time doing this. Remember when ESPN used to air Obama doing his NCAA tournament bracket?
Yeah. And in Obama's defense, though, do you think he picked that bracket out himself? Or do you have 18 focus groups?
I think he was so arrogant. And seriously, he thought he was the smartest person on the planet. Why would he allow anybody else to influence his decisions?
I could see that. I could also see, 18 advisors saying something. Well, you can't pick against Florida. You can't. You may need those votes in the next election. You can't have them going out so early in the tournament. Oh, North Carolina, you're not having them win at all? Oh, Mr. President, I don't know. But you're probably right. He probably picked it.
Yeah. Well, he spent a lot of time watching ESPN. But that's not a big deal. Trump hits retweet, and he found the time. Yes, maybe he's a really good multitasker. He could have been sitting there bored, and there's the Finnish president just prattling on, and he just looks down, opens up Twitter like we all do when we're bored in a conversation, and looks. Sweet.
Well, in that piece, do they mention why Joe Biden and Hunter Biden would be included in that photo?
Well, they say, I do think that, the gas executives, it's them with gas exec from, what's the name of that? Burisma. I believe that's the Ukrainian gas company that he was involved with, Devin Archer. But Devin Archer, I believe, is an American, and he was Biden's longtime business partner. So they were on the board of Burisma together. That's why the photograph matters, because Biden, I never talked to my son about any of this stuff. I was never involved in it at all. And it is plausible that he went on the golf course with them and didn't know a damn thing, but come on now. This just reeks.
Well, of course it does. Who was it? He was on with Chuck Todd. And it It was Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana was on with Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd was just absolutely outraged that Senator Kennedy would even imply that there was some sort of shenanigans going on, with the Ukrainian government hiring Hunter Biden. And
well, it's not the Ukrainian government; it's this Ukrainian gas company.
Yeah, but isn't the gas company isn't it part of the Ukrainian government?
Oh,
I thought that was government owned.
There. Potentially.
Well, and Senator Kennedy said, "Wait a minute. Do you think that they got Hunter Biden's name from ZipRecruiter?" Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Did he say that?
Yes.
He's funny. He's very clever.
And Chuck Todd
other
was
witticisms too that he drops on it. Yeah. Oh yeah, they just pulled his name out of hat. They're like, oh, the guy that got thrown out of the Navy for doing cocaine in his 40s. That guy. Yeah. He sounds like a reasonable person to put on our board. Very stable individual.
$50,000 a month.
Yeah.
We need to get Scam Pack going.
I know. Well, I was talking to my dad about this. I'm like, why can't you just go to, run for elected office already? Please. I would be happy to consult for any one of these countries that want to just throw a ton of money at me for a no-show board position. And then we can use that money to start a foundation that we can then leverage more money out of.
Yeah. Can we not screw Haiti over this time now?
Yeah, I would not. No third world countries will be negatively impacted by our giant grift. There's so much scandal around the Bidens and money and things like this. There was an article that came out in Politico that prints out to something like 13 pages long. So I haven't slogged through the whole damn thing, but it's called Biden Inc. And it's about not only Hunter, but Joe's brother, James, running these gigantic shakedown scams. Here, I'll pull it up here for a second. Let's see if I have this framed in a way that you can see some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I loved this. Over his decades in office, middle-class Joe's family's fortunes have closely tracked his political career. Can you believe it, Fingers?
That's shocking to me.
So I love this. The Bidens, his brother James, and Hunter are involved with this. So the story begins. The day the Bidens took over Paradigm Global Advisors was a memorable one. In the late summer of 2006, Joe Biden's son Hunter and Joe's younger brother James purchased the firm. On their first day on the job, they showed up with Joe's other son, Beau, and two large men, and ordered the hedge fund's chief of compliance to fire its president, according to a Paradigm executive who was present. After the firing, the two large men escorted the fund's president out of the firm's Midtown Manhattan office, and James Biden laid out his vision for the fund's future. Quote, "Don't worry about investors," he said, according to the executive who spoke on condition of anonymity, citing fear of retaliation. Says, this is James Biden again, "We've got people all around the world who want to invest in Joe Biden."
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, it goes on. So we've got investors lined up in a line of 747s filled with cash ready to invest in this company. That's James Biden some more. So James Biden, the younger brother, has been running this scam since the 70s, getting money out of people. But good old middle-class Joe, who they say in this, as recently as 2009, his net worth was less than $30,000. How is that possible? Isn't his wife a doctor?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
He needs to talk to Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi to find out how to grow your net worth while you're in office. Well,
I mean, he could be just allowing his kids and his family to reap all the benefits of this.
To double back, you are correct. Burisma has operated in the Ukrainian gas market since 2002. It is the largest private natural gas producer in Ukraine.
Oh.
So apparently it's not government owned in some way. I Well, aren't we all government owned in some way, Tracy?
Pretty much.
To be fair. So, no, this is, I'm sure it's just all a coincidence.
Totally. It's not fair at all to scrutinize this or ask for there to be an investigation or anything like that. That's way out of line.
Do you think that Joe Biden, when his kids get a gig like this, kind of sits back at his desk in his chair like a Corleone, asking, "What's my cut in all of this? Do I get I get 30% in all of these dealings, and we'll put it in your mom's bank account."
That's pretty good figures.
Oh, thanks.
No, I think they believe Biden and that whole elite class thinks they do this in a classier way than that. But that what you just did is the way that Trump's doing all of this.
That's right.
It's so gauche because he's so gangster about all of this stuff. And if you look at government kind of the way that I do, where the government is just a mafia with a flag and a post office.
Yes.
I'd rather just have a blatant gangster running the damn thing. Because then we couldn't dispense with this illusion that these people really give a shit about anything but themselves.
That's a nice business you have there.
Right.
Be a shame if something happens to it.
But think about that. They did that to Trump for decades when he was a private citizen trying to be a builder. You know how many politicians' palms you have to grease to do that and get all the stupid permits you want? I mean, we're in the process of trying to expand our current building, and you can't believe how many different committees you have to go through in the city. You're just like, wait, okay, you guys said yes, but now I got to go to those guys and say yes, and then these guys, and that. We can't just get everybody in a room, everybody says yes, and we just move along. Because we want to expand to give more people jobs. We're going to hire a local contractor to do the building. All the money's staying here. What's the problem? On land that we own?
You know, I want to look at the story and think to myself, let's play a game. Let's replace the name Joe Biden with Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
And let's replace
Halliburton.
Yeah, and let's replace the name Hunter Biden with Liz Cheney and see if the media would be more curious as to how this whole job interview and the board membership went down. I think they would be a little bit more curious about it. But I honestly believe that there isn't a lot of curiosity with this story in the mainstream media, not only because it's a Democrat, but because that's how Washington works.
Yeah. Well, what was it just less than a month ago? They were freaking out about the Air Force spending the night at Trump Turnberry. Oh, he's benefiting off of this by charging, a reduced rate for them. Oh, wait a minute. That was set up under Obama. Forget it. But we're talking about billions of dollars if you include what he was doing with the Chinese, too. So why doesn't this rise to that level? And they won't grapple with that at all. No. I mean, I'm watching MSNBC this morning, as I want to do on Saturdays. And this whole Biden thing has been debunked. I heard the word debunked like 6 or 7 times in regards to if there's a scandal or not with what was going on with Hunter on all these boards and getting all this money. And I love that John Kennedy. Do you think they found him on ZipRecruiter? Huh. They might have reached out to him on LinkedIn.
That's right.
Hey, would you like a board position? What do I have to do? Nothing. Okay.
Here. How much do I get?
Yeah, here's my routing information. Direct deposit or no?
It's very Krusty the Clown. What do I get? How much?
Yeah.
Throw some money. Yeah, all right. $50,000 a month. You would think you would have to have some sort of expertise in the field to get that kind of coin. But no, your expertise is your last name is Biden.
Yes.
It's a select group. I'll give them that. So clearly we both need to change our last names to Biden.
Okay.
And the other thing we need to start doing is calling the first term of the Trump administration scandal-free.
Oh, that's a good.
I mean, if you just repeat that over and over again, as if it's hey, Trump administration first 4 years, first 3 years, so scandal free.
Oh.
Just watch Hedge explode.
Oh, that's easy enough. Trump does that on his own.
So Bernie Sanders had a heart attack.
Yes.
And I find it amazing. First of all, best wishes. Hope he has a speedy recovery. And he's back on the campaign trail, even though I think this is it.
Yeah.
Right?
I did wonder if I had a moment this morning where I thought, I wonder if people are going to throw a lot of money at him again. Like he'll have a really great fundraising month or something, a pity. And he'll get that beach house.
So maybe the heart attack was staged?
No, I don't think so. No, this is heart attack gun.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. He was getting close. He was falling in the polls already. I mean, Warren surpassed, if you go on Predicted, which has now become my addiction, and I can't believe you're not on there with me, fingers, betting on all this stuff. But Bernie has dropped to third. Elizabeth Warren has surpassed Biden on there, and Andrew Yang is in fourth place if you follow the betting.
I mean, God bless Andrew Yang for just coming out and saying, I'm going to bribe you for your vote.
Right. I'm going to bribe you with other people's money. That's the best.
Yeah. I mean, the other people play around with it. Oh, we'll pay off your college debt. Well, maybe I don't have college debt. Oh, you know what? We're going to get you better health care. Well, I'm pretty happy with my health insurance. Screw it. I'll just give you $1,000 a month. Oh, okay. So good for him. Oh. But I'm still stunned, with how people can look past Elizabeth Warren and how she lied. I mean, this isn't cultural appropriation. This is bloodline appropriation, which to me you would think is worse. But no, it's not apparently. It's totes cool if your side's doing it.
Yeah, well, they're not going to bring that up in any of these debates. That'll wait until the main event.
You don't think Kamala Harris in desperation?
I don't know. She's busy tweeting a petition out to get Trump thrown off of Twitter. That's how serious she is. And if you link on the petition, guess what? It's capturing the information for her website. I know that's a big shock to everyone.
Right. That's what you do.
Get her on television, apparently.
That's what. Well, listen, we need to be jotting this stuff down for Scam Pack.
Yeah, we do. But I'm excited to see the next debate is October the 15th, brought to you by CNN and the New York Times. So that'll be hard hitting. But Tom Steyer supposedly has made the stage for that one. He's bought his way in there.
Who?
Tom Steyer, the billionaire that's been spending all his money to impeach Trump and then just spent a whole bunch of money buying Facebook ads to get people to give him $1 so he could reach the threshold, which I think is 130,000 individual donors. So he's spent more than he's gotten back in that whole deal, but he needs to be on that stage. He'll be wearing one of those Save the Earth, Eat the Babies t-shirts.
Can we talk about the Eat the Ladies baby?
Yes, Eat the Babies lady.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the Eat the Ladies baby.
Eat the Babies lady.
So, the AOC, Alexia, what's her name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Alexia.
That's what she's going to do when she leaves Congress. She's going to become the new voice of the Amazon thing. And you're, so what was it that you wanted to listen to?
Yeah. Yeah, this is Alexandria instead of Alexa. What did you want to buy? You know that's killing the planet, right?
Yeah, you've reached your carbon limit for the week. You should probably unplug me, too.
So the AOC is hosting a town hall. And, of course, if the AOC is hosting a town hall, it's probably 85% complaining about billionaires and that we're killing the planet. One of the two topics is being discussed. And so a lady pops up and Gosh, I wish we would have thrown this in the show prep so we have the video available. Oh, you have it?
Yeah, of course. All right.
She brings up a good point about Bernie Sanders threw out there that there are too many women in third world countries who may not want to have kids, and maybe we should be using some of our tax dollars to provide abortion services for third world countries.
Yes. That's part of his Green New Deal.
But, in 2019, we got to consider everything, Tracy. And it seems to me aborting a fetus isn't enough.
No. Well, not all of them can be aborted. So this is what happens. What you have to consider if they survive all the way to actually be born.
I'm being sarcastic for that one person out there the last time we talked about abortion called us, we should be destroyed because we're joking about abortion.
Yes. Neither of us find it entertaining.
No. So, but this video is entertaining. So this woman steps up and says, listen, we need to consider alternatives to abortion.
Not talking about it. No. Why don't we just let her talk?
All right. Go ahead.
And keep in mind, those of you who haven't seen her, have you ever seen photographs of Squeaky Fromme and the other members of the Manson family?
Oh, good Lord.
That's what she looks like. She's got these big barrettes in her hair that look right out of the 1970s. I haven't seen anybody with hair like this in a couple decades. And she's got a strange accent, which I can't quite place.
So it's Ukrainian.
Because of the climate crisis, we only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan.
But see, that's not a joke. There was a Swedish professor who wrote a think piece about how we should perhaps quit eating red meat and start eating dead meat. But maybe she's deaf. I can't tell if that's an accent or a speech impediment.
I was going with accent, but you may be right. Maybe she's deaf. No, she's not deaf because I don't. Oh, and how dare the AOC have a town hall without someone signing up by her? I don't see anybody there because she at one point the AOC responds and she quickly responds to the AOC's response, and I don't see anyone up there providing some sort of sign language interpretation. So I'm going to go against the whole deaf thing here, Tracy.
All right, I'm going back to Squeaky.
Slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great.
And the shocking thing to me is that nobody in the audience is laughing. I mean, there are some side eyes being thrown, but nobody's just like, say, what, you crazy bitch?
People are too afraid in 2019 to say what, you crazy bitch.
Really? Some of the people in this audience, I don't know. I feel like they might have it in them. Remember, she represents Queens.
There are... Oh, you're right. But there have been some ridiculous and some really crazy statements made either in Democratic presidential debates or the 7-hour CNN climate change infomercial that ran. And you saw whenever someone, a candidate on stage would say something batshit crazy, you'd sit back thinking, oh, that's crazy. But then there'd be a huge portion of the audience going wild, applauding. And now it's to the point where, geez, maybe eating babies is a bridge too far. Tracy, maybe. But nobody there is saying, hey, clam up, sit down. They're just all sitting there. And maybe they're stunned. I mean, when you're going to a town hall for your congressman, she's standing up, she's answering questions, you're probably not thinking at the time, I wonder if anybody's going to be bringing up the eating the babies issue. Because somebody should have the courage. I don't think anybody's walking in there thinking that's going to happen. So you're probably sitting there completely stunned that some crackpot is going on and on about eating babies. I don't know.
Let her play out.
Yeah.
great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. No, thank you. We'll go ahead. Okay. No, we'll go ahead. It's so no. No. Thank you. So I think yeah, no. So one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years. But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope. We are never beyond hope. Okay.
Do you notice that she didn't say, okay, we've got a lot of ways to pursue this and solutions, but eating babies is not one of them? I just thought immediately, what would Trump do if that happened at one of his events? Get this guy out of here. Get him out. Get him out. Go back to your mom's house. So she's going to be thoroughly embarrassed of you now. You're the laughing stock of your family. Get this loser out of here.
There's some very good baby-eating people out there. Wow. Yeah, here's the other thing, too, that I found funny about that. First, that she did not condemn baby eating. And really, if we had an honest news media, you would have to have reporters going around to every Democrat asking if they condemn baby eating. But the other thing, too, that I found comical about that answer, it's the first time other than a cute Obama poster that I've heard anything about hope from any Democrat, really, in 2 decades. Hope? Where's there ever a message of hope in anything that comes out of the Democratic Party? It's corporations are screwing you. The planet's dying. We want to make it to where you can't drive your cars anymore unless they're battery operated. We want to take your straws away from you. You shouldn't be eating meat. Pretty much, let's just tax joy. Anything that could bring you joy in your life, we need to have a hall monitor from the Democratic Party there telling you that you shouldn't be doing it. That's how far off the deep end the Democrat. I want to be able to vote for a Democrat, Tracy. I really do, because the Republicans aren't much better.
No, they're not.
But the Democratic Party collectively has completely lost its mind. When you have people in the squawk accusing someone like Nancy Pelosi of being a racist, which happened a few months ago. Yep. Basically, what you're saying is people to the right of Nancy Pelosi are racist.
Oh, for sure. Well, we already knew that.
To the right of Nancy Pelosi? That's 96% of the... Well, no. I can't tell you anymore what the percentage is, because I'm seeing too many people clapping to almost everything, wildly applauding all these nut job plans, except for the baby eating. There was not applause for the baby eating. There wasn't even one person with a smattering when she started. The one lone clapper in the audience. There wasn't even one of those. That was too far for these people.
No, they should have sent in somebody else to do that and see if they could get a full round of applause. Because that's what you need, is one person to break that barrier.
You're right. You're right.
They just stood up and did the slow golf clap for her.
So, watching the whole thing as it hit the internet a couple of days ago, you're watching it if you are someone who is a political observer and is someone who knows how activists think. You're sitting back watching this going, I hope this is real. I hope this is real. I hope this is real. But deep down, you know that it's probably staged. And it was staged.
Yes. Well, and thinking about it a little bit more, what gave it away to me, I mean, aside from the sheer lunacy, but as it's hard to differentiate this from a lot of the stuff that we've been hearing coming out of actual candidates, is the design quality of her T-shirt.
I'm sorry?
Her T-shirt just had simple, crappy, I don't even know, Helvetica or something, Times Roman font. If this was a legit thing, she would have had a slick logo and a nice custom font done up. The left doesn't play around when it comes to design and aesthetic. They're very good at that. And so to me, that's the dead giveaway here.
Well, and who was behind this?
I believe it's the Lyndon LaRouchers. I saw a video on Twitter where some guy wearing that same poorly designed T-shirt was out petitioning to get people to sign his petition to have us start eating babies. He had a whole rap about it. He's like, babies are available for Thanksgiving dinners. And I just lost my shit. And the person he was talking to was taking him seriously. I'm like, you got to be kidding. If somebody comes up to you on the street wearing a Save the Planet, Eat Babies T-shirt, I would immediately want to talk to them. But I'm not going to take them seriously, especially when they're like, babies are available for Thanksgiving dinner right now if you just sign up here.
There was a website many, many years ago where you could buy human meat.
Oh, okay. Why are you knowing about this?
Listen. I don't want to get into it. I'm not a cannibal. Let's just say that. Big Macs are too good to turn away from those. But word was spread around. Guys talk about weird shit.
Okay.
And hey, get a load of this. And somebody showed me this website where you could buy human meat for your consumption, which is illegal. But apparently you can get a lot of illegal things on the internet, Tracy.
I was not aware of that.
We're an hour and 10 minutes in.
I know. Well, we have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, I don't know if I have, I don't want to drag it out for too long. I did want to sound off about the vape freak out.
Oh, please do. Let me set this up for people who don't know. Tracy L. Connors has been vaping way before it became a cool thing to do, to quit smoking or to walk around your high school campus sneaking in the bathroom vaping. You've been vaping now for 7-8 years, something crazy like that?
On October the 15th, it'll be 10 years.
10 years. How many packs a day did you smoke before you started vaping?
My average was probably 2 packs a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've been vaping now for 10 years. Have your lungs exploded?
No, not once.
Do you have popcorn lung?
No.
Would you say that your health is you're in better health now than you were 10 years ago?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So about a lot about the vaping industry because you've taken an interest in it because you've been vaping for so long. You found it at a mall kiosk or something? Yeah,
I'd seen them advertised somewhere, and then back in the day before everybody freaked the hell out about it, they had a kiosk set up in my mall where you could just try it. And so I went and I thought, in my head, I said, if this feels exactly the same as smoking, I'm going to switch to this because just on its face, all you need to know is that what's in the cartridges, and this varies obviously, but the cartridges that I first started using and then I've switched over to a liquid that I know exactly what's in it, it's nicotine and water vapor, and you can either have propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin. And I've always gone with the vegetable glycerin because if you Google that, guess what it says it's used for sometimes, fingers? To treat burns. So it's like, well, that can't be a bad thing to put in my lungs since I've been putting fire in them for, 15 years.
Right.
So I tried it out and I was like, oh, this kind of works. And then I asked the guy how much. And this is when they used to look like cigarettes. So it had a white piece on it that was the battery. And then you could swap out the little cartridges that looked like the filter of a cigarette. And the batteries would maybe last a couple hours or so. And it was like, oh, it's $150. I said, thanks. No, thanks. I'm going to go shop on the internet. So I did. And got my stuff in the mail, and I had a pack of cigarettes that I hadn't opened yet, and my vapes come in the mail, and I looked at that pack of cigarettes and I said no, and I put it down. And so I have it somewhere, still not unwrapped with a little stamp on it, 2009, and I've been vaping ever since.
Now, there has been a war on vaping for some time, and it's really come to a head here in the last couple of months. There's been a media campaign, feels like, against vaping, and it's all superficial stuff. Like, there doesn't seem to be much digging going on by reporters. It's just shocking headlines. Somebody is claiming that they have sustained some sort of lung injuries based on vaping, and they don't look further into the story to figure out if they had some pre-existing condition or where they got their vape pen. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's been the main issue. So when this first started maybe a month ago, and I think at this point 8 people have died in vaping related circumstances. But if you read into it, the CDC, I think it was, put out this long explainer of what the hell was going on. And deep down in that, they say, none of the cases that have resulted in death were anything that was sold, like a Juul cartridge or anything that was bought at a store or through a vendor. It's all stuff that people have been mixing themselves or purchased from somebody that's mixing it. They all contained THC, vitamin E actuate or accessate. I don't even know what the hell that is, and some other stuff. So none of it is like, oh, it's nicotine water vapor in either the PG or the VG. That's not even on the list of things that are in these things. So this is all black market crap that people are getting from God knows who and ingesting it. It's like when I was in high school, there was a whole thing where kids were huffing stuff.
Yeah.
Like dry, different aerosol sprays and killing themselves. So this has nothing to do with the vaping industry. It has nothing to do with Juul. I know they're all worked up because they're like, oh, kids are doing it. Because the number one, Juul is probably the biggest selling brand of the disposables. Mm-hmm. And, or you can buy cartridges for them, whatever. I don't know how it works because I've got my own setup, so I don't pay much attention. But the number one selling flavor for those is mango, I believe. And the thought process goes, well, obviously they're targeting children with this mango flavor. That's what this is. And I sit here and in my head, I'm like, I was just at the liquor store the other day. And I was in the vodka section. And I can't count the number of flavors on the wall here.
I had a friend who loved whipped cream flavored vodka.
It's delicious. You mix that with Red Bull, excellent. And we've been complaining on this podcast for years, you specifically, about all the flavored whiskeys they have. So is that targeting children or not? I really don't understand. And then they'll take these statistics like, oh, the usage of vapor products has doubled over the past 2 years amongst teenagers and stuff like this. And then you look at the numbers and it's like, oh, it went from 1,000 to 2,000. But it's still to the point, and I don't have children, so people can call me a horrible, nasty bitch, but it's like kids are going to try this stuff. And they're either going to try a cigarette or they're going to try this. And if I had a choice between those two for my own children, I would say I would much rather them try a vape pen than an actual cigarette.
Absolutely.
It's way safer. And the NHS, and, I'm not a big fan of universal medicine like they have in the UK, but their National Health Service has done a lot of work on this. About 4 or 5 years ago, the Royal College of Physicians put out a paper where they suggest that current smokers switch to vaping, and they consider it to be at least 95% safer. And they put out a video that's quite amazing where they had these jars and they filled them up with cotton. They had 3 of them: a control, one that they had vaping, and one that they had smoking. So it's really kind of fun because they make these things smoke. They're like, here's a month worth of cigarettes. They put a cigarette on the tip of one, they put a vape pen on the tip of another, and then they show you what it looks like on the cotton. And it's vile. Like, I was so grossed out by it. I'm like, I don't think I would have ever touched a cigarette if they'd showed this to me in health class. Like, they show you the picture of the lungs like that. I don't know why there's a disconnect, but looking at these cotton balls just dripping with tar, and like the throat of the thing was just, ugh. And
well, it's because you've handled cotton in your life.
Yes.
And you know what cotton's supposed to look like. If you don't want to handle anyone's lungs, it's
No.
gross.
No, but you also kind of want to think about, for me, I don't want to think about all the internal organs that I have. Like,
Right.
I like to separate myself from that a little bit. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not really going on in there. But looking at this cotton, and they open up the one with the vape, and it's just, they're all still white and fluffy, and there doesn't appear to be anything wrong with them. Yeah, it has these things. So if you're actually buying something over the counter, or like I buy it from the same person I've bought from pretty much the entire time I've been doing it, the ingredients are on the bottle, and they've had to go through FDA testing. So I know what the hell I'm getting. I'm not going down the street and just some guy pops out and's like, hey, want to attach this to your vape pen? Yeah, no, thanks. I think I'm good.
In a trench coat.
Yeah. But
I got juice.
And I'm in Canada, and they've got it on their front pages too. Like, oh my God. And meanwhile, people are doing this all over the world. So why is this just seems to be this isolated incident? It's obviously not one of the brand names, because there would have been a massive recall.
Right.
Right. Right at this time, Juul was in talks with, I believe, Philip Morris to buy them. And now this has blown that whole deal up. But if it was a Juul product that was involved, you damn well better believe they would have yanked every one of their products off the shelves.
Has it blown up?
Oh.
Or will now Philip Morris be buying the Juul at a much lower price than it was, say, 6 months ago?
Well, and I know that's one of the conspiracy theories that I've heard, is that this has all been perpetuated by Big Tobacco. Then, like, oh, okay. Would they really sacrifice like 8 or 9 people to drive down the? I don't know. I mean,
listen, I have a daughter who's a high school sophomore, and she talks about the kids going to the bathroom and vaping.
My God, I wish I had that option in high school.
Yeah, if I have a choice, I would much rather see my daughter vaping than picking up a Marlboro Red.
What I don't understand is you can also get them with 0 nicotine in them.
Right.
Because that's what part of the addiction is, the whole process.
Look, you built one for me. I was a casual smoker. And when we would go to these conferences, that's when I would turn from a casual smoker to a chain smoker. You know, we would go to a CPAC, and it would be 4 days of 4 hours sleep and a night, and drinking way too much, and you need that nicotine to get you going. And man, I love that vape pen. It got me through many a conference when I needed that nicotine rush without a cigarette, because you know, especially if you're a person that's like kind of a social smoker, and then you go from you know, not smoking for a week and then going out with your friends and have a few cigarettes to 4 days smoking 4 packs of cigarettes. You feel gross.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope that there are enough people who are vape advocates who can try to push back against this. But once the momentum starts going on a narrative like this, it's awfully hard to fight back. A lot of what I'm seeing in the news media now is that a lot of the people who have suffered some sort of vape-related health issues had to do with them vaping THC.
Yes. And that was in the CDC report. And most of them are over the age of 30, I believe, too. Because it's just gotten shifted into this whole discussion about kids doing it. When if we look at what's actually going on, this is, 20-plus-year-olds, people that are legally allowed. Because I can't remember I know going online to try to buy stuff, you have to agree to an age statement. And I think it's 21, maybe.
Well, I've wondered, we've made trips to Denver before, and, you see these vape pens from, Juul, and then you see these vape pens in a in a dispensary, and you're like, oh, okay, who actually made this?
Yeah, well, that stuff gets tested like crazy too. I don't think any of these cartridges that have resulted in deaths were purchased from a legitimate vendor.
They were rigged after the fact somehow.
I think somebody's making up batches of things. Well, it's like how people get fentanyl. It's like they didn't. Sometimes it's cut with that stuff and they don't even know it. So
right. This
is all black market stuff that's going on. No, I mean, the marijuana stuff is regulated probably more intensely than the actual vape industry is.
So any of the THC stuff you're seeing in the media was probably some sort of black market stuff. And what's funny is you have this movement, like you said earlier, to ban the flavored juice. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
The flavored juice. And what's going to end up happening is these manufacturers won't be making it anymore, and more people will turn to a black market to get.
Right. They're just exacerbating the problem. But it's such a silly premise that, like, oh, once you hit the age of 18, you no longer like flavors.
Right. Anything else, Tracy?
Nah. We can hold it for next week. If
we
we're
can
back.
hold it for next week. Yeah, if we're back. She's Tracy L. Connors. I'm Fingers Malloy. Remember, you can catch the Enough Already podcast where all great podcasts are sold, and also you can watch the Enough Already podcast, the video version, over on YouTube and BitChute. Final thoughts?
I'm going to go vape some more.
Good for you. I'm going to hang out with Lady Liquor. That has been another Enough Already podcast. Be back. We will be back soon with an all new Enough Already.